20s, and was with him for, I don't know, he says 8 years, I think it was 7, but somewhere in there, and traveled a lot and got to meet a lot of people and establish friendships that I still have today,
So due to that young age, is that how the moniker Kid stuck?
Yeah, my grandfather, they used to call him Kid Ramos, and I just kind of picked that name up, and then I was a young guy playing with older people all the time. Even as a teenager, I was playing with these guys that were older than me, and so I was the kid, really, and it just stuck, I have a place in my heart for James Harman always, man. We've been friends for a long time, and he's still out there has been out there doing it for so many years. You have to respect that, and he's a character, man. He's a storyteller. That's what he is, and he gets out there and does his thing, and he's one of a kind,
Okay, tell me about Hollywood Fats, another blues great that you played with.
I was the guitar player in the James Harman Band, and James Harman came to me and he said, Hollywood Fats is a friend of mine, and he wants to come play with this band. And you're the guitar player in the band. I'm asking you what you think about it. And that is a pretty amazing thing that he did that. And, he asked my opinion, and I said, man, I think that's a wonderful thing. I would love to be challenged and to learn from Hollywood Fats. He was a legend already then, and so he became the other guitar player in the band. And so it was one of those things where I was either going to have to rise to the level of doing something on my own with my own voice, or just quit and go home, because Hollywood Fats was that good. I mean, he was a walking encyclopedia of blues guitar, and at that early age, he had already played with Muddy Waters. He had played with J.B. Hutto, Jimmy Witherspoon. He'd played with all these people. Albert King. He was in their bands. He was not just a guy that sat in with them. He was in their band and traveled with them and played with them. So Fats, had really, and had his own band, of course, the Hollywood Fats Band with Al Blake and Fred Kaplan and Larry Taylor and the late, great Richard Ennis. And so, Fats he was a force to be reckoned with. And Fats he was like a big brother to me. He did not try to intimidate me. I mean, he could intimidate you with his playing because he knew how to get over, man. Fats would stand up there and he would take a solo, and it would start and it would have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it would take you places. And to this day, I still think his best stuff was never recorded, because back then we were playing 4 sets a night, almost every night. We were playing 5-6 nights a week all the time. There was a great club scene back then, and we just played all the time, and that's what we did. We made a living playing music. We traveled, and we got to be on the beginning ground floor in L.A. The scene that was happening in L.A. in the early 80s was I mean, everything was going on. You had rockabilly, you had, punk music, new wave, whatever they call that. And, a lot of these bands would have us on the show with them.
And of course, we're talking about Hollywood Fats. I lived in Los Angeles during the 90s, and I missed them by a few years. But I remember this blues club, I think it was in Studio City. It had this big marquee, and it read, Home of Hollywood Fats. And these blues cats would come into my record store and talk about Fats like he was going to be performing that weekend. And this is years after he died.
Fats made that kind of an impression on people, man. I mean, if you were around in the 80s back then and saw that band live, I mean, Fats, people just loved him, man. And he was a character, man, in his own right. And he just drew people to him. And he was a force to be reckoned with, man. That guy really got over, man. When he played guitar, it was something to behold. And that's great that you mention him and keep his name alive, because, it's a shame he died too young,
So, Kid, this thing you were doing with James Harman, was it local, or did you guys tour?
Yeah, we traveled, man. We went all over the place, We did a lot of local stuff because there was so much. We could stay home and make money, There was so many gigs. But we traveled. We started taking trips to the Midwest, and Texas and up Northern California. You know, we went all over wherever we could. I never went to Europe with him until after I'd already been out of the band, you know. But then he started traveling and going overseas a lot after that, after I left the band in 88.
Now, how was the band branded in those days? Was it like a West Coast blues type of thing?
Those Dangerous Gentlemen is what they called us. That was James's name for us, and that's what we were, man. We came into town and broke the furniture and tore the place up, busted the windows out, and left everything in shambles when we after we left town. I mean, we came in and we just had great shows, man. It was a show, you know. James Harman was a great frontman, entertainer, storyteller, and the band was just like a freight train heading down stream, you know, on the tracks, man. It was pretty impressive, man. I have to say, people that saw it know what I'm talking about. And unfortunately, a lot of people didn't see it, but it was a great band and a lot of fun, man.
Got a black cat bone and a mojo too. It's Blues America. America.
Before I knew it was time to go. Well, I had to leave, but I couldn't get.
The first time I heard of Kid Ramos, you were a famous guitar player in the Fabulous Thunderbirds. And I remember looking up on stage and thinking, man, who's that young greaser guy? Tell me how you joined forces with the T-Birds.
You know, I had seen the Fabulous Thunderbirds in, like, I think it was 1978, because I think I was 18 years old, so it might have been 78 or 77. I had a buddy that I grew up with. We went to elementary school together, and we started at junior high together, and then his parents moved to Arlington, Virginia. And he told me, as soon as I get out of high school, I'm moving back to California. So as soon as we both graduated high school, he sent me a plane ticket, and I went back to Virginia, and we packed up his truck and everything, and we drove back to California. Well, while I was out there, I said, hey, let's go. You know, I was out there for like a week before we left. I said, hey, I want to go see Sonny Stitt, the bebop sax player, man. He's playing in Georgetown, which was just a walk across the Potomac. And he goes, yeah, okay, great idea. So we went into Georgetown. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's kind of a lot of stuff going on. We walked all over the place, never could find this club. So he says, let's go over to the Bayou, this place called the Bayou. There's got to be somebody playing there tonight. So we walked up to this place, and in the front it says, appearing tonight, the Fabulous Thunderbirds. And I went, the Fabulous Thunderbirds. Okay, so we go inside and sat down for 3 sets of the Fabulous Thunderbirds, man. And I mean, Keith Ferguson, Mike Buck, Jimmy Vaughn, and Kim Wilson. That was the band. And, man, it blew my mind. And I went up and talked to them on the break, and they were just looking at me like, yeah, you know. I said, man, you guys are great.
Yeah, we get this a lot.
Yeah, whatever, you know, get out of my way, kid, you know. And, you know, they were gracious, man. But, I mean, it was incredible, man. It was the real low-down, greasy stuff that they played, you know, back then. And so that was my first meeting with the Thunderbirds. Then whenever they came to L.A., they played the Golden Bear. I went and saw them there. I saw them a few other places. I remember Kim Wilson looking at me, and he goes, man, if I had your hair, I'd be a millionaire. I don't know if he remembers telling me that. That's a true story, though. And so, you know, and I talked to Jimmy Vaughn, and Jimmy Vaughn was a big influence on so many guitar players, and me as well. Jimmy Vaughn was just greasy style, man. He had so much soul. He still does. I don't mean to speak in the past tense. But, you know, he had style, man, and his look, everything. He influenced a lot of guitar players, man. So, you know, I talked to him, and he was very nice to me, and we talked about Billy Campbell, who was another guitar player who came and played with James Harman before Fats. And anyways, they were very cool. And then later on, Kim had started his solo stuff doing the blues records on Antones. And he was traveling with guys that were friends of mine, Richard Ennis and Larry Taylor, Junior Watson, guys from California, and Rusty Zinn. And that was his traveling band, and that was the band. So I'd go see them, and then at that time, Larry had told me, Kim's looking for another guitar player for the Fabulous Thunderbirds, you know. So he says, you'd fit that spot really well. And I thought, yeah, that'd be really cool, man, you know. So, hey, one thing led to another, and I ended up getting the call to come and play on the record, which was Roll of the Dice. And it was being produced at Bearsville in upstate New York, which is a famous studio up there. And so they flew me up there, and I played on, 3 or 4 songs. And then next thing you know, I was in the band. So
just a roll of the dice.
Very cool band to be in, man. What a guitar chair that's deep there, you know. So I was fortunate to be a part of that, you know. Willie J. Campbell was on bass, you know. Mark Carino was on bass at first, and then I kind of helped bring Willie J. into the band. I played with Willie, with James Harman, you know, and then later Stephen Hodges played with us for a while, and he was with James Harman, and of course Jimmy Bott from the Mighty Flyers, and Richard Ennis for a time played with us as well. So it was all the California guys, all the West Coast guys, you know, and we just had a great time, man. It was a really great band, and Kim is, you know, of course, he's an incredible harmonica and singer. I mean, the guy's, you know, he's legendary, man. There's no doubt about that.
Yes, he is. How's your relationship with Kim Wilson?
It was great to work for Kim, and we're still, you know, good friends. And, you know, he's the kind of guy, as a leader, he doesn't tell you what to play. If he doesn't like the way you play, you won't be in that band for very long. That's basically how Kim does it. And, you know, we had a great run together, man. And I still see him and, you know, sit in from time to time on different blues things that are happening. And Kim is just, you know, I have a lot of respect for Kim, you know.
Well, we've had some heartbreaking losses recently in our blues community. And among those legends, as you've mentioned, the great Richard Ennis.
That's a heartbreak, man. I mean, truly, Richard Ennis was just one of a kind, man, and one of the greatest blues drummers, man, ever that I got to play with. And he just was a real man, you know. He was a man's man. He didn't take anything from anybody, and he treated you with respect if you treated him with respect. And he was a friend, man, of mine. He was a good friend of mine. He came to see me when I was sick. You know, I went through a pretty bad couple of years. And he came to visit me, and he just was a friend, man, you know. He was a real friend, and sorely missed, man.
I think that says a lot about you when you're in this business and not one person can say a negative thing about you. Yeah,
Richard was one of a kind, man. And, man, what a drummer, you know. Mm-hmm. He just was no nonsense, man. That's his personality. He was a man, you know. He just manned up every opportunity, man. He was not going to fail, man, you know. He just put it in the pocket, man. He put it in the pocket, and he had that behind the beat feel, man, that a lot of cats don't have. I mean, he came up, you know. He played with T-Bone Walker. You know, he was in Little Richard's band. He played with George Harmonica Smith. He actually is one of the few drummers that played with Lightnin' Hopkins, you know. Lightnin' didn't usually like drummers.
Yeah, he was mostly a solo artist. I would think that it would be pretty hard to play with Lightnin' Hopkins.
Yeah, I mean, he's on his own time, you know.
Absolutely.
And Richard played with him, and, you know, Richard, man, I think he's on almost every one of my solo records. And so many records, man. He played on so many records.
Found that little laundromat girl. Damn right.
Damn right. We got the blues. More blues on our Facebook and Twitter.
More with this week's special guest, the star of the show, Kid Ramos, when Blues America returns.